Hey everybody, Krystal Gamer here with a brand new speed build for you. This is something different, something I have never done before. It is a bowling alley. And I did this because Laurie Smith on Twitter, I saw her make a post asking for a bowling alley. And she said bowling alley / skating rink. Well, we don't have seasons yet, so I can't do skating rink. So I said, well, all right, I'll do the bowling alley. And I'm not quite sure if she was talking about that she wanted the two combined and she wanted to wait till seasons came out or what, but you know, it just spurred me nonetheless. Whatever. If she uses it, she uses it. If she doesn't, she doesn't. It spurred me to make a bowling alley because I had never done one. So there we have that. It doesn't really take much. You know, I see a tweet and anything really can get me going on something. And I said, well, I haven't done a bowling alley yet, so let me try. And where we are in the beginning on this, by the way, I almost got rid of all of the beginning footage just because what I end up with at the end looks very different than what I have in the beginning. But I don't know. I left it in because seeing the transformation over time, I guess, is probably interesting. Maybe, hopefully, for those that watch builds, maybe it's kind of interesting. And I sort of keep, the roof sort of stays. It just, things change color a lot. And it took me a while on this particular build because it's a bowling alley, right? Like, how do you make a bowling alley look really good? I had to try and come up with some ideas. So of course, for me, it's like roofing is everything. I sort of have this theory that roofing is kind of everything. And so I said, all right, well, what can I do different for a roof? And so I was trying to make some kind of different roof. And you can see where I started here, or sort of started. I'm about midway in. It changes more, of course, because everything does. But this was kind of my idea, was sort of this tiered roof system. I wanted to use either the large bowling ball or the bowling pins or something. I wanted to use one of those elements like oversized somewhere, and I thought that the roof was going to be the place. And so you'll see those come in later as well. I wanted to get in. I end up doing a lot of the interior just because I don't really know when I'm starting this. I don't exactly know how big do I need this? How many lanes do I need? And how big do I need it? And I was trying to go by a duck pin bowling alley that my husband and I used to frequent quite often. And I don't know even if probably half the viewers don't even know what duck pin is because it's not that common. Duck pin or candle pin. What those are is it's the type of bowling with the small balls, and those the little bowling balls do not have the holes in them. So they're smaller balls and they don't have the holes for your fingers, and you can kind of, well, depending on the size of your hands, I suppose, you can pretty much get your hands kind of around the little balls. And then on duck pin bowling, the bowling pins themselves are shorter and fatter, so they're kind of squat looking. And so you have the smaller balls and they're shorter and they're fatter. And then there's candle pin bowling, which has the tall pins, just like the type of bowling with the holes in it, regular 10-pin bowling. And so, but candle pin has the thinner pins, but the smaller balls. So there are a couple of different types of bowling, and I have discovered that since I moved out of the Northeast that a lot of people don't know about the other types of bowling. So that's the only reason I'm giving the little lesson here. And especially, I'm guessing if people from other countries are watching this and I say duck pin or candle pin bowling, they're going to have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about. But nonetheless, my husband and I used to frequent a bowling alley that was duck pin bowling, and that was kind of what I had in mind when I was creating this. And the way they had it set up, I sort of did the tables, and I was going for tables and chairs in the front, actually. And what I did was I put a bunch of ottomans thinking that those were little tables, and they weren't. And I changed them out afterwards for actual little tables. I don't know what I had in my brain thinking that those were coffee tables, but they're not. So I changed them out to actual coffee tables later. So no, don't fret. Not that anyone was anyway, really, but you know, just in case. But nonetheless, I tried to set up the tables and chairs a little bit according to the place that we used to go to. And after behind the tables and chairs for where you would actually do your bowling, there were eating tables and chairs. And then behind that was a food area that was just basically a food counter, not a snazzy thing or anything, just a food counter that you could go up to and order some food. And we had the restrooms back there, and we had some arcades and stuff. And so all of that was kind of my inspiration for creating this. and your area where you pick up the shoes and all of that. So I created each one of those areas, and that's kind of what I was going for. It's not exactly like the place that my husband and I used to go to, but it's sort of similar. The entrance was on the left, and you know, I was sort of doing a similar, inspired. It was inspired by it. But I wanted some kind of like special Sims element where I had some oversized pins or the oversized bowling ball on the roof or something. I was looking for something to make the outside look a little bit more snazzy. Because I'll tell you what, that was one part. I did not want to emulate our old little duck pin bowling alley on the exterior because it just really didn't look very attractive. I mean, really, how attractive are bowling alleys? This was a bit of a struggle, to be honest with you, because bowling alleys, typically they're just a big box. They're not super good looking on the outside. You know, so it was a little bit of a struggle when I got to really doing the outside. And you can see I sort of work on the inside a lot more than the outside first. I pretty much finish the inside barring tweaks and some changes that I do before I really get to the outside. And a lot of that was, I really didn't know what I was going to do with the outside to make it look good. And it took a while, and in the end, I think it looks good, and I hope you guys do too. I think it looks about as good as it's going to look for a bowling alley at the end with what I end up with. There were a lot of iterations, a lot of changes, but you know, it's a bowling alley. How fantastic can it look out front? We're not making the Ritz here, so you know, there's that. So now we have our restrooms going in my actual duck pin bowling alley that I used to go to. The restrooms in the eatery were on opposite sides, with the restrooms kind of in the back, but for space and stuff here with the way I did this made more sense here. So it, like I say, it was just inspired by our little place, not so much an exact rendition. And of course here we have a bar, which I do believe serves alcohol, and that we did not have at our bowling alley. I don't think most bowling alleys, I don't know. Do most bowling alleys have bars and alcohol? That's an interesting question. I'm not sure. I guess some do. I'm thinking of some that I've been to off the top of my head, and some have and some haven't. So I guess, you know, it depends on the type of bowling alley that you got going on. So now let's see, what else can I tell you about this? Obviously we end up with a nice pretty blue and pink on the inside. The outside, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending how you want to look at it, I guess, it ends up predominantly red and white. And the reason being is, unfortunately, I could not change the pin color. I would have loved to have been able to change the color around the pins from something other than red. I love red and white though, so I'm not going to complain too much. I would have just changed it to better match the inside, really, but that's not, I mean, who cares? Outsides don't have to match insides, really, you know, on design stuff like this. I would have just done it just because I could have, if I could have, but I couldn't. And unfortunately, man, I was talking to one of the sim gurus. Some of you guys probably already saw this. I was talking to one of the sim gurus, and they're not even thinking about giving us the color wheel. Like that seems like it's totally off the table. And so I'm a little miffed with EA. I still love The Sims, and I'll always love The Sims, but I'm a little bit miffed about that particular thing. To me, it's the biggest loss in The Sims 4. But there's a lot of other great things about Sims 4, so we shall try to stay looking on the positive. And we do have a lot of cool items, and the bowling alley is kind of neat. And you can tell I have a dude in this bowling alley at this point in the game because I had started playtesting and all of that. I'm having a weird little error on playtesting, and I don't know if it's common, but after my little dude finishes a game, the screen goes black and the pins don't reset. And I don't know if that is something specific to my game, if that's all games. I would love feedback on that if other people have experienced the same thing. That would be just good to know. I mean, chances are I don't know that I'll ever actually play this myself because I don't play the game very often, but it would just be a good to know type of thing, in my opinion. And so now we're at the part of the build where you can see that I have moved the oversized pins to the top of the build, thinking, okay, well, maybe they'll look good as, you know, eye-catching things on the roof. And I was kind of, I don't know, I was half and half with it. I felt like it was okay working, but I wasn't entirely sold on it. And they end up going away at the end. They don't end up staying. I end up having this idea to put some more pins out front, bowling pins out front. And once I put the bowling pins out front, I'm kind of like, well, I kind of like the ones out front better than the ones on the roof. And it started to feel like the ones on the roof were overwhelming. So I ended up getting rid of the ones on the roof and then taking some and putting them out front because I thought those looked better. But then, of course, I had to change the roof because I was like, all right, I want to make this roof like a little bit more dynamic. So I got this sort of crazy idea about making a lot of really small roof pieces and putting them in to create this kind of like wave effect going through the whole thing. And so, yeah, that's what I end up with to kind of make the roof a little bit more dynamic. Not that anyone, like, no one could actually see this if it was real life and they were going from the ground or something. No one could actually see that style and that painstaking effort on the roof at all. The only way you can see it is kind of from above. But, you know, we're looking at stuff from above all the time, right? As Sims players. So it matters, man. It matters. And then I had to add some landscaping out front just to make the place look a little bit more alive. Though in real life, I don't know that I've ever seen a bowling alley with any kind of landscaping or anything out front. So honestly, this might be the best looking bowling alley I've ever seen. And it's not even because it's mine, it's just because bowling alleys in my personal experience are kind of divey looking actually. But, you know, hey. This bowling alley is not very divey looking. So there you go. This is for upscale Sims. That's what it is. The upscale bowling. No, I don't know really, to be honest with you. And then I had this idea of using more pins as parking stops. I wanted some kind of parking stops because really, I mean, you're going to have parking out front, and how exciting is parking looking? And, you know, so I had this idea of using the pins as parking stops, and hopefully you think that's kind of cute. I thought it was kind of a cute idea. Just something to add something, you know, because it's a bowling alley. How much can you add? How good can you make it look? I tried, man. I tried. So, and I do actually, I really like the final product. I think that it looks good at the end. And I'm hoping you guys do think it looks good at the end as well. And you're going to see me do one other thing before I leave the video for today, and we are getting close to the end of our time together. But the other major thing that I do to this build is I light it up like mad for evening, because, you know, it's a place that, to be honest with you, most people are probably going to be frequenting in the evening, not during the day. So, yep, I light up the whole thing like mad so that we can get a good visual on it. Oh, and as we can see here, we have skylights. If you look overhead, you can see skylights in the roof too. So, yeah, so that's pretty much what we end up with. And I hope that you guys like this because we're approaching the end of our time together today. So I think I'm going to bid you adieu and say thank you so much for spending the time with me today. I really appreciate it. And if you do like this, if you like the video, please don't forget to hit the like button before you leave. And if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, well, why not? You should be. Don't you like me enough? No, I'm kidding. Really, no. If you like the content, do subscribe. It helps us YouTubers out a lot. And it does keep you bringing you back. And I hope to see you back again. And I think that's it for now. Y'all have a good one. Bye now.